Hey, everybody, I'm Jeff Yalden, and it always takes me like 30 seconds to really find myself, especially in this new way of learning, being on Zoom and connecting with you where you are. But I'm excited. I'm excited and honored that I get to share a message with you, and I want you to understand that I want to be sensitive. I also want to be real. And the last thing I ever want to do is be depressing or bring up
You want to watch it with me here?
emotions that we've had before.
Great.
I do want to invite you to mute yourself unless there's something that you want to say, and I'll leave it at that. But sometimes people don't know how to do that. They got the news on in the back room, or they're having a spout with their dog or cat or whatever, kids. So let's get going. I want to offer my condolences to both of your communities, Rochester and Rochester Hills. And this is not easy. It never is, but it's been in my heart for about the past 30 years, talking about teen mental health and suicide prevention. So again, my condolences, and I want to send my thoughts and prayers to all of the friends, the teachers, the families, to everyone in your community. I was contacted by Kelly, the Wellness Warriors of Rochester, about the possibilities of coming into the community and speaking, but everybody knows where we are with that. And she reached out to me and asked if I would do something here. And hey, man, I'm super honored. Moving along here, let's get into this. I am going to talk about teen mental health. I'm going to talk about teen suicide today. I'm going to talk about parenting. I'm going to talk about teenagers. So this really is a message for everybody, the family, the teen, I think teachers, parents, coaches. So please feel free to share this. I'm going to make it available. It's being recorded. And there's also a website I'm going to give you where you'll have all of the slides. So don't worry about taking notes. I mean, unless you want to. But I really want you to get something out of this. And at the end of the day, if someone says, oh, yeah, I wanted to listen, but, I got caught up. What was it about? I would love it if you said, he really talked about togetherness and family and time. And I'm also going to give you a lot of tools that you're going to be able to leave with. So the most important person in a child's life, Dr. Phil says, is that same-sex parent. I kind of wonder why it's not both parents. But I can understand what Dr. Phil says. I'm not going to question Dr. Phil, first of all. But I think I meet so many kids today that are coming from broken homes. And there's the one parent, the other parent's not involved, or there's weak here, weak there. Both parents are significant, trusted, I think the most influential person in a child's life. Having said that, I think the adults in a child's life, whether it be the teachers, the coaches, their friends, parents, aunt and uncle, having trusted, significant adults in a child's life is so important. And every child needs to know that they have these people that they can reach out to. Sadly, I meet too many kids that don't have a trusted adult. And that frightens me. I wrote a book, Teen Suicide, one of the 4 bestsellers I wrote, the why behind today's suicide epidemic. It's a great book. Buy it, whatever. Okay.
Hi, Jeff.
Yes.
Sorry, excuse me.
I got more people.
I think there's people in the waiting room if you
Yeah.
could.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to keep, interrupt me every minute to say, hey,
Okay.
go check out the meeting room.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, next time I got to make you an administrator. This is new for all of us. But let me speak on that for a second. I don't know about you. I know, I'll talk about myself here. I work with school communities. I haven't had a paycheck in 9 weeks. I don't get unemployment. I didn't get the government check. I didn't get any of the small business loans. So like many of you, I'm in the same boat. But you know what I've learned? I am I am learning so much from this. I got time. My blood pressure is lower than it's ever been. I lost 15 pounds. I'm not eating out. I'm not traveling. I I feel better than I've ever felt. So I think one thing that our kids really need to understand is that no matter what we go through in life, whether it's good, bad, ups, downs, wins, losses, everything shapes us. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but our kids need to understand that what we go through, we grow from. Which leads me to this growing up in self-esteem. I think it's important for kids to go through life and have failures, ups and downs, mistakes. But teens don't know what it's like to fail, because if there's one failure, many of them think it's the end of the world. But perfection doesn't exist. And I think our kids need to understand. I don't know where they're getting off thinking that, well, I got to be perfect. If I can't be perfect, what's the point? Patience in the process. Even as parents and kids, if you don't understand the journey, trust the journey. Trust in what is going on. I love this. Slow is fast. Fast is slow. As a man that lives with mental illness, I'm diagnosed with major depression, bipolar 2, and post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm in therapy. I'm on medication. I'm also a yoga practitioner, and I'm getting my certification in about a month here. Yoga exercise practice has been just as important as my therapy and being on medication. But one of the best things that I'm learning through all of what we're going through right now is I wake up, I get up, I dress up, I show up. I think that's come to be half the battle in life. So slow is fast, fast is slow in the rat race that we've been so accustomed to living. You know, we also used to have a 5-year plan. Hey, what's your 3-year plan, your 5-year plan? I'm changing. My new plan is permanent flexibility. I want to be flexible to the uncertainty and the unknown of what we might be going through. So I think that's another thing that is really scaring our youth today. We'll talk more about that. Growth and comfort, I don't think that exists. You make mistakes and you grow. We learn from the ups and downs. I think it's really a beautiful thing. So prepare your child for the road ahead where they're going, instead of preparing the road ahead for your child, which you remember maybe a year ago when we had this college scandal about, you know, paying kids to get into such and such college. I read that parents are not letting their children grow up. 15% of parents called or texted their kids while they're in college to make sure that they're up, ready for class or the exam. I don't know about you, but if you're paying some $50,000 a year for your kid to be in college and you got to call and remind them about class, I'm not thinking they should be in college. Yeah. Moving along here. Why is this important?
Hold on. Jeff, can you let people in? I'm sorry to bother you.
You're not at all. Thank you. We'll fix this next time. Matter of fact, I'm going to move this like in front of me so I can see it better. Why is this important? Teen suicide is an epidemic in our school communities, in all of our communities. It's a healthcare crisis like we've never seen before. And I really found it interesting. Before this social distancing and homeschooling, my office was hearing 7 to 11 suicides a week. Now that everybody is homeschooled, and I do believe our counselors are working very hard in communities. I think they're doing a great job, but I'm not hearing about a lot of suicides like I did when we were in school. And one of the things that I know is our counselors are not meeting with kids. So this really puts us in a position where our young people are going to have to be more responsible in advocating for themselves. And our parents are going to have to be extra vigilant in advocating for the best interest and the well-being of their child. Interesting times here, especially for our kids. Mental illness today is very different than it's ever been, and it's a major concern, yet few people still are willing to talk about it. And if we're not talking about it, I think we're part of the problem, not the solution. Parents, families, communities, and schools. I am sorry if you're an educator and you disagree with me. Let me kind of share what I think. I think ultimately this is a parent's responsibility. However, I do meet so many people coming from broken homes. And in the rat race that we've been living in, a lot of our kids are isolating themselves, and I'll talk about that disappointment and burdensome. They don't want to bother you because they know you have your problems, that they don't want to trouble you with theirs. So our schools are having to come on board and do more. Our teachers are having to do more with less. Administrators, they're not mental health professionals. They're like, we don't know what to do. If we do this, we're darned. If we don't do this, we're darned. So it's a really tough place for everyone to be. I think everybody needs to step up a little bit more. But the bottom line is this: when you feel good, you do good. And when you do good, you feel good. So advocate for yourself, ask the questions, have the courage to speak up. And I think great things will happen. There's a clear connection between your mental health and your physical, academic, emotional life. So we need to be talking. Okay, we're going to get deep now. My theory on teen suicide really comes down to, Kelly, I'm going to get really focused in on this and not worrying about the waiting room. So interrupt me with the or something. When I talk to kids, I'll come into a school community, I'll do a full all school assembly. And then afterwards, I open up to if anybody wants to chat, and there'll be like 50, maybe 100 kids that want to talk, and it's unbelievable. And so when I'm talking to these kids, I don't even ask, I find this out. There's two feelings I want you to concern yourself with. They feel like they're alone, and they feel like they're a burden or a disappointment. Here's what they mean. The I'm alone represents a belief on the part of the individual that he or she doesn't have any meaningful relationships. I'm going to
listen to this
real quick so I can really focus on this. This represents a belief on the individual that they don't have meaningful relationships. And how do our kids feel? And I'm going to answer this, but I want you to feel what I'm feeling. How do our kids who have these trusted parents, their teachers, by the way, happy Teacher Appreciation Day a couple days ago, thank you. How do our kids feel that they don't have meaningful relationships with friends, with teachers, with coaches, the administration, their mom, dad, aunts, and uncles? Then the other side of this, I'm a burden, or I feel like I'm a disappointment to my parents, to my teachers. I'm a disappointment to myself. That represents a belief on the part of the individual that he or she doesn't make any notable contribution to the world. They feel like they serve as a liability. And well, I'll leave this for later, but I want you to know why kids are not reaching out. Because part of this, they feel like they serve as a liability to that. And if they were going to want to talk to you, you're going to respond in a way, you're 15, 16 years old. You should be worrying about that. I'm going to talk more about that. Years ago, I used to find out I'm alone, I'm a burden, And then I would go right to, is there that desire for suicide? I don't go there anymore right away, because over the past 2 or 3 years, I found out that after the I'm alone and I'm a burden, there's self-harm. Let me talk about self-harm. Self-harm, years ago, girls were more likely than boys. You heard about girls cutting. And then it kind of grew even over the past couple of years. Today, it's actually more boys than girls. Self-harm, cutting, hitting yourself, anger, self-medicating, reckless behavior, pulling your hair. Let's talk about self-medicating, vaping, e-cigarettes. When I go into a school, I'll ask the administration, I'll ask teachers, what do you think is the percentage of kids that are vaping? They say 35, 50%. I'll ask the kids, and the kids like 90% easily, 85, 90. Is vaping, do you think that's a form of self-medicating? Absolutely. I mean, we could talk about peer pressure. We could talk about the stress, the anxiety, the I'm coping, problem solving. It makes me feel good. We could talk about that all day long. The bottom line is it is a form of self-medicating, which is also a form of self-harm. I want to tell you about, I'm talking to Michigan right now. I was at Elma College, beautiful school. They brought me in to speak to all the student athletes in October. Well, after my program, this young man is kind of lingering around. You don't want to be seen having to talk to the mental health guy. And so everybody leaves the gym, and this young, good-looking man comes up and he says, hey, I'm so-and-so, nice to meet you. Hey, man, how are you? He says, hey, can I ask you a question? I says, yeah. So he introduces himself. He's a senior. He was the captain of the football team. He says to me, he says, Jeff, listen, growing up as an athlete, what would you say about as athletes smoking pot? I said, let me listen. If I can't be honest, I don't want to do this. And I've always prided myself on being real and speaking from my heart. I said, man, I don't even drink. I've never touched a cigarette, pot in my life. But we're legalizing this, and it's hard to say it's bad when, for some reason, many states are legalizing it. I said, let me ask you this question. You have a game, you're a senior, you go out with the boys, you take a hit, you do what you want to do. Or do you find yourself smoking pot because you have a feeling in your heart that is troubling, and you find that by smoking pot, you're able to feel a little bit better in the here and the now? He's shaking his head. He's like, yeah, that's it. I said, so if you're asking me my opinion, yes, that's a problem. I didn't want to get into what this means and like how this is a gateway drug. Kids don't care about titles. They don't care about research. They don't care about ties. They want the truth here and now. They want real talk. And I said, what we need to get, I said, listen, if I can give you in a healthy way what you're getting in an unhealthy way, would you be interested? Well, yeah. And so that's when I talked about coping and problem solving and not so much thinking about right now, the here, the now. And I slowly brought over the counselor. I'm still in touch with this young man. He's been in therapy ever since. But he did say, well, Jeff, I mean, I'm the captain of the football team. I'm a senior. They look up to me. I can't just, what if my team finds out? I'm like, how awesome would that be? You're a senior, you're a captain, you got responsibilities, family going on, your girlfriend, and someone says to you, oh, you're in counseling? Oh, yeah, I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better friend, a better student. That's like me. I don't do yoga to get better at postures and breathing. I do yoga to get better at life. What are you going to do? Look at me and judge me because I do yoga? Yeah. Hey, man, that's part of the problem is we're so concerned about living our lives according to what other people think or want us to do. I'll get into that more. I'm getting going here. Oh, I'm feeling good. So the point that I'm trying to say is when you look at this desire for suicide, represents habituation to physiological pain and fearsome experiences to repeated exposure to painful and provocative events. I know that you would agree with me if I said, I don't even know if 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we were going through every day there's a shooting. Every day there's a natural disaster coming. Every day people are losing their jobs. Every day there's fighting, there's divorces, every day. But now that we're home, I feel like there's less traffic, people getting help, relationships are getting stronger. I think with what has been going on, there's so much going on, this internet, the social media, our kids are on 24/7, 365. Growing up as a teenager today is harder than it's ever been. But I will also say parenting, I think, is harder than it's ever been as well. Also, I think teaching is harder than it's ever been. But this is important. I'm alone. I'm a disappointment. I don't want to burden you with your problems. Those are two red flags. If you notice red flags, do something. Take all signs seriously and immediately. Moving on to the next slide, here's the question. Do teens want to die? I don't think so. But I think they want answers. I know from questions they've asked, they want to know the meaning of life. Teenagers, there's two things. Number one, they tell me they're tired. You're an adult listening to this right now. You probably think to yourself, Jim, tired? I'm 45 years old. My kid ain't tired. I'm tired. My kid's 16. I'll tell you what tired is. I've been working since 16. It's a different kind of tired. They're tired from being on every day, all night. And number two, they think that if I can't be perfect, what's the point? So they see the world in which we're living in. Where's the fun? Because it's all responsibilities and obligations. It's money problems. It's what am I going to do for a career? There's no loyalty, broken families. And they're trying to fit into a world where it's like nearly impossible to fit in. And if you're different, then you're attacked for being different. So I tell young, life is a journey. And that's why I think it's important to understand the only constant in life is change. And when I said earlier, the 3-year plan, the 5-year plan, listen, it's the permanent flexibility plan. And I'll also say years ago, we used to tell our kids, go to school, graduate, go to college, get a degree, get a job, and retire. That's not the case today. So number one, we could talk about college or we could talk about trade. But there's too many parents, my kid's too good for trade. My kid's going to go and be a lawyer. My kids, my family, we got to look good. What's wrong with trade? I'm sitting in here, my nonprofit foundation, through those doors, I've got a big wood shop. We do screen printing, wood shop, we do welding. My mental health, that's the greatest place in the world for me to be. Our kids need to find what they enjoy doing. I'm not talking about sitting on a couch gaming and just blah, 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 eating Doritos, contemplating their lives naked, sitting there watching Netflix all day. No, what do you enjoy doing? What are you passionate about? What are you good at? That's what they got to get out and do. But I think that they don't want to die. They look at their life in the here and the now, and they see their solution to the problem so far out in the distance that if they can't solve it here now, what's the point? And then they make these emotional decisions based on the here and the now. I'm going to say something very important right now. When I come into a school and I find out that there's strong suicidal or homicidal ideation, and we have to do an assessment and then third-party professional care, the parents come in, we got to send them out. I'll tell you what, I don't really like sending them away. And I'll tell you why. When you send a child away from the comfort of school and people they know to the emergency room or third-party professional care, their anxiety raises in the moment that they're thinking about wanting to end their lives. We need to put time between the thought and an action. We need to de-escalate the situation. Like, let's calm down and just breathe. But if we send them out, one thing they think, yep, nobody cares about me. They just keep pushing me off and pushing me off. You want me to talk to someone that I don't even know? Like, I'm not going to do that. So I think when a child is suicidal, having someone they know that can validate their thoughts and their feelings, that can listen, spend time being present and listening, sit on the same level. You know, I don't ever ask the question anymore like, hey, how you doing? It's not even a question. It's more like a statement. Hey, how you doing? How you guys doing? Here's a better question. How is your heart? When you ask a question that way, you answer two questions that everybody asks about you. Can I trust you? And do you care about me? How is your heart? So when you really want to connect with your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, the child, your child, be present, listen, validate their thoughts. Don't fix it. And just allow them to speak on their terms. Now, like, you can't go after this program and be like, hey, I just listened to that guy, Jeffy Yalden. Yeah, you know, I'm going to start parenting today. We can't start parenting at 16 years old. We should have been doing that a long time ago. But you know what? It's never too late to be a part of your child's life. I met a guy recently during this whole social distancing, and he was telling me about how he loves it. He's getting to know his kids. And we just had a great talk. So if there's young people listening, my friends, I want you to understand, suicide is forever. I think a lot of people don't understand the finality of suicide. And so you make this permanent action that ends your life, but the situation you're in is temporary. And I speak this from my heart at 16 and 21 years old. I'm now 49. I wouldn't be here sharing my heart with whoever's listening if I made a forever decision back then. So again, trust the journey. Trust in the process. What we go through strengthens us. I don't want to lecture. But I think it's a journey of growing, learning, laughing, embracing life, and making moments that create the happiness and joy. And through this, we find ourselves out a lot. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this question. I wish I could see you. Who's the hardest person to get to know? I'm going to unmute you here. Who's the hardest person to get to know?
It's a Zoom quiz.
Can you go? Oh, there you are. This is great. I love you guys. I can't believe people are actually listening to me. Hey, can I just take like a selfie of you guys and me?
Sure.
Hold on. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to do my duck face. Wait, well, I got to turn it. Hey. My friends, who's the hardest person to get to know? Anybody?
Probably yourself.
Yourself. Absolutely. And so I love that when I ask this question, everybody says the same thing. And so we're stressing about, we're overwhelmed, we're anxious, we're depressed. why don't we just stop and focus on getting to know and being comfortable with who you are? That's part of the process in life.
Muted.
So I'm going to go back to screen share here. This is unbelievable. This new way of learning is great. Share. All right. So I don't think teens want to die, but they find the solution so far out in the distance. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this bullying and cyberbullying. I'll say this, kids are mean. Schools have a zero tolerance policy. And I used to say that rarely is a suicide the cause of one thing, such as bullying or cyberbullying. That could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. However, this past year, I have certainly come to believe that bullying or cyberbullying can certainly make a child want to end their life. But then I go back to this. If you're making a forever decision based on what might be going on in your life right now, I think you have poor coping skills and problem-solving skills, and you're not understanding this is temporary. So I think it still goes back to mental illness 95% of the time. Okay.
Jeff, can you mute everybody again? Only because I can hear some stuff and I'm not sure if everyone's hearing your message.
Yeah, I will try to mute everybody again. Okay. Can you all see me as well as, what do you see on your end? Do you still see the slide?
No.
You don't see the slides. Okay.
No.
I'm going to turn that back on. Don't hate me. I'm still trying to figure this out. Oh, there it is. Screen share, slide, share. Okay. You can see me in the slides?
No. No.
What do you see?
Just the word Zoom.
I see you in the slides.
I can see you in the slides. Kelly, it must be something on your computer.
Okay, I'll try to find it, you guys. It's
Need a technical resource, Kelly?
yes, totally. Okay, I see it. I see it.
You do? Okay, good. Now I lost the whole chat room and everything, but that's not that important. So talking about smartphones and social media, I think this is really, really important. Let's talk about the danger zone. If your child is on their device 4 or 5 or more hours a day, they're 70% more likely to have major depression in their life. And so you're probably thinking right now, Jeff, my kids are on their device more now than before this social isolation. I understand. I think a lot of it depends on what they're doing. Moderation. If they're gaming 12 or 14 hours a day, I'm not sure that's very healthy, because I don't know if it's so much the gaming as much as I think it's the time spent alone. Isolation is toxic. The more alone we feel, the more we feel like we don't have meaningful relationships. This device has easily become our connection to the world, and we need to have more interaction. The safe zone, I think it depends on your child. 1 hour, 3 hours, 5 hours. In that time that your child is on the devices and how their emotions are, you see it. Red flags, take it away. Be the parent, not the friend. Your phone, not their phone. They don't like it, fine. Do what my parents used to tell me. Shut up and look out the window and be happy. We'd look out the window. The dopamine effect. The dopamine effect is very similar to an adult who has an addiction to alcohol or drugs. I want more, I want more, I want more. Well, these devices have that dopamine chemical in there that says to them, I want more, I want more. And so what we've done is we've given them these devices that the teenage brain that doesn't mature at 24, 25 is not capable of understanding the consequences of their emotions and how they feel. So for them to put it down, I want more, I want more, they're not capable. So the parent needs to step in and take it away. Mandating off time. Listen, on Sundays, I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. My phone is in my golf bag in the morning. It's in my bag on the boat in the afternoon. You can't get hold of me. And so I think the more we can teach balance, boundaries, moderation, life exists, heart to heart, eye to eye. If we don't listen, in the next 10 years, you're going to see a 31% increase in teen suicide, drug and alcohol related deaths. I'm sorry, but this is serious. Fundamental. Let's talk about helping your child connect the dots. It's called the cycle. Here's the situation. Thoughts. Situation happens, there's thoughts. We struggle, but we struggle more with our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are unproductive or detrimental, and we all find it difficult times to muster up the motivation to take the action needed to interrupt these troublesome thoughts, feelings, the outlook, and replace it with something that is of a more healthy thought. So self-esteem situation, we're probably going to go more of negative thoughts. If our self-esteem is better, our relationship with people is better, it's easier to see a situation and just, well, let that go. A situation arises and we have these thoughts about the facts of that situation, or we think we know the facts. And so it triggers thoughts. Your thoughts lead to your feelings, and your feelings, good or bad, lead to behavior. Yes.
Jeff, I think some other people got logged out and they need to get back in. Do you see that on the participants at all?
Participants. Oh, that just came up. Admit. Yes.
Thank
that was
you.
easy to figure out. Thanks, Kelly. So I think that makes sense to you. There's a situation. How are you going to respond? That's the coping skills. Those are problem-solving skills. Not every situation pertains to you. You might think it does, but you know what? You're really not that popular that people are thinking about you all day, every day. So let it go. And if there's something that you know where maybe it does pertain to you, address it in a graceful way. So behavioral activation, that's what they call it in cognitive behavioral therapy. I like this. Our kids go home and listen, they don't come home and be like, hey, mom, dad, I had a tough day. Can we talk? No. They go home, they go to their room, they're in isolation, they're on their phone, they're watching Netflix. You probably think they're doing homework. Your kid's so awesome. They're on Snapface and Insta and TikTok, they're gaming. So they just wish that you would come in and just be. They want to be able to talk. They don't know how to talk. They don't know what these feelings mean. Thoughts are thoughts, like an arm is an arm, a leg is a leg. Thoughts are just what they are, they're thoughts. But feelings, if we do not let our kids, I'm specifically talking about boys. Girls, I think, do a pretty good job of talking and feeling. But boys, we've taught them for many years, suck it up, kid. You know, grind through it, be tough. You men, we don't talk about our feelings. Well, let me tell you about the Center Disease Control and Prevention. They decided to do a study. White males 35 to 50 years old is the greatest number of suicide today. And the study that they did is, well, why is this? What happens is they've taken the brains of those that have ended their lives and they wanted to do research. They recognized that back in the adolescent years that the trauma was so significant, but they never were able to release, to talk about it. So their responsibilities over time are greater. Their obligations are bigger. And so if you can't talk about it day after day, week after week, month after month, you get to a point where it manifests and it just explodes. And that's why it's so important to create a platform where, how is your heart? There's nothing wrong. And ladies, you are stronger and better than men. You need to help us by being non-judgmental, validating our thoughts and feelings, encouraging and supporting the very little that you think we're doing good at. So I think that's important, but don't do this. Inactivity, isolation, I'm alone, I'm depressed. And the cycle doesn't change if it's not interrupted. So let's break the cycle and do this. Do more of what matters to you. And if you do more of what matters to you, you feel better about yourself. That's a new cycle that we get in on. However, there are responsibilities and obligations. You might not like it. It's part of the process. You got to do what you got to do to someday have what you want in life. Get off the sofa and stop feeling depressed. Now, this is like surface depression. I'm not getting into the diagnosis of major depression or dysthymia. Most kids, anxiety, stress, they're overwhelmed, and they're having trouble with what the expectations are. Get involved, because motion changes emotion. Here's some concerns with today's youth. Like I said, the anxiety, they're overwhelmed, expectations, being overwhelmed today. As a matter of fact, what do you think is on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high stress and 1 being low stress, emotions, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high, 1 being low? Where would you say you are? Anybody? Give me some numbers.
Yeah, where are you?
Low?
I would probably say 7, 8.
Yeah. So, Kelly, when I ask that question to teachers, I get the same response. We're 7 to 9. I ask the question to high school students, they say the same thing, 7 to 9. So if we're living at a 7 to 9, do you know that 6 or above is considered being overwhelmed? So if 6 and above is being overwhelmed, and overwhelmed today is now a clinical diagnosis of mental illness. So many of us are living with mental illness, we don't even realize it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Don't get off this message and be like, I don't like him. He told me that I'm living with mental illness. Being diagnosed with mental illness is one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, because now I know. You mean I was part of the problem? It was like this weight was lifted off me, and I'm like, I accepted it, I embraced it, I engaged it, and I said, I want to own my emotions. I don't want them to own me. And so when my anxiety or emotions are high, my self-care is a priority. What am I going to do to bring it down? That is called like advocating for yourself. And so looking at a lot of this here, common concerns with today's young people is they're dealing with, go back to participants in case anybody's coming in, depression, anxiety, bipolar. As a matter of fact, we're diagnosing kids with ADHD, ADD, when in fact it's not that diagnosis, but it's bipolar. I don't even want to be diagnosing kids. I want to treat the symptom month after month after month, because as they mature, things do change. And I don't think it's fair to be sending a diagnosis right away. I talked about substance abuse, self-medicating, self-harm, bullying, the suicidal ideation, lack of respect. I think that's part of the fight or flight. You're kind of like, who cares? I'm trying to survive myself. So that's kind of the fight or flight. Anger. Anger comes from fear and frustration. And so we take it out on others before you're going to attack us. I think that's part of the mental health spectrum of how are you coping with anger or situations that are happening in your life. Our youth today, more teens are depressed, greater anxiety, more stress, the trouble communicating. And again, here's why. They're afraid that you're not going to validate their thoughts and feelings. You're going to try and fix their problems. You're too busy to listen. They're afraid to be a burden when they know you have problems, so they don't want to burden you with theirs because they know you're just trying to deal with your own. And you also tell them that you're too young, and they're afraid that you're going to judge them. It's sad. It's sad. Create the relationship. And you can have the relationship by being a parent, not their friend. Another thing, going back to that, I talked earlier about listen. Here's how I have learned to spell the word love. T-I-M-E. Time. The more time you can spend just being present, listening, put the phone down, listen to their heart, play a game. My wife and I played a game of cards last night. I killed her. It was awesome. 3 straight rounds. I beat her. 250 to 0, 250 to 0, 250. She's not happy with me today, but play a board game as the family. Go for a walk. Get to know each other. Like this dad said to me, I feel like I've missed 16 years of my kid's life, and it took this pandemic for me to get to know my kids. My kids are older. You can't take time back. Back to sharing the screen. Neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters send chemical messages between neurons. And if this is not working properly, then depression can occur. And when this happens, you will notice different behaviors. You'll notice red flags. So I want to say this. When you notice red flags, do something. Do something immediately. And you might say, well, Jeff, what do I do? Do something. Call the school. No, Jeff, we live in a small community. The school doesn't need to know our business. Stop it. If you care more about your reputation, the well-being of your child or family member, then again, you're part of the problem, not the solution. Greatest thing I've ever done in my life is I've asked for help. As a matter of fact, listen, I don't want to lecture, but I want to tell you something. I want to tell you 2 things, and I think you'll get a lot of value, and I think you'll appreciate my honesty. I went through a divorce 8 years ago. Beautiful woman, high school English teacher, student council advisor. I have a great relationship with her today. When we got divorced, it would have been easy for me to blame it on her or family, money, this, that. And I did, because growing up, that's all I've ever done. Because it was never me. My family, my parents sucked. The teachers shouldn't be teaching, coaches, the offensive line. It was always everybody. When my wife and I got divorced, I found myself one day just looking in the mirror, and I said to myself, what did I have to do with the failure of this marriage? And that was when that reflection looked back, and it said, Jeff, your mental illness, it's greater than you're respecting it to be. And my greatest regret in life is that I've hurt people in getting to know who I am. And I'll share this with you. 8 years ago, when my wife was coming out of the hospital, she had just had a full hysterectomy. You're going to judge me, and I'm sorry. I'll tell you, ain't nobody judged me more than I've judged myself. So she's coming out of the hospital. I picked her up, and we're driving home, and she had a doctor's note, a note from the doctor: 30 days mandatory bed rest, no work, no exercise, no cleaning, no cooking. We get home, I bring her upstairs. Hey, Marcia, can I get you some water? Do you need food, books? What can I get you? I got her settled in bed. And that was the moment that I walked out on her forever. And I hate sharing that. But one of the things in getting to know me as a man that lives with mental illness, I've gone to everybody that I know I've hurt, and I've asked for forgiveness, and I've shared with them my journey. And most everybody has forgiven me. Some people haven't. But that's now their issue, not mine. You can't change, to anybody who's listening, you can't change people, you can't change places, you can't change things. But you know what? You can choose to change yourself every day. And that takes courage. That is about self-study, self-reflection. Who's the hardest person to forgive? Ourselves, right? Ain't none of us perfect. We've all said things we wish we didn't say. We've all done things that we wish we didn't do. This is part of the journey of life. And I'm sorry that I've hurt people in the process. But I could tell you more. Matter of fact, you don't have to listen. You could tune out. It's recorded. But yeah, I want to tell you, you know, my post-traumatic stress, I could tell you a bunch of things. You know, in 17 years of my marriage to Marcia, she has never seen me speak live. Now, in the beginning, it was like, well, Jeff, I can't come see you speak, because if I come see you speak and they laugh at you, I'm going to want to protect you. Yeah, I get it. But 17 years? So let's stop. I want to stop. I don't want you guys muted. I don't know how to unmute. Part of the problem is we blame things on other people. You know, where did I go wrong in this? In that 17 years of being married, did I ever once go to Marcia and say, Marcia, listen, even if they laugh at me, who cares? But me knowing you're there, that would be like really awesome. So if you came, that would mean the world to me.
More.
Communicate. If I don't communicate,
I'm here.
How is she supposed to know? It's the same thing with kids. If we don't talk, we don't know. How are we supposed to recognize these signs when we're not looking for them? I met a girl in Indiana a year ago who had a failed suicide attempt. She was at my program, and afterwards I'm talking, I said, why didn't you ask for help? She said, no, nobody would listen. How do you know that nobody would listen if you're not asking? This is a two-way street. We have to work together on this. Now, okay, so screen share again. I'm getting used to this. Let me get through this. I feel like I just talk. So this is, how do you tell depression from everyday life? A general rule of thumb here, very simple, is if you notice, my liability says I got to say this. If you notice 4 or the 5 symptoms on the next slide, if you notice this if you notice any of these symptoms within a 2-week period without any break, red flags. And so you might be saying to me, hey, Jeff, like, I'm looking at this list. This is not only my kid, this is me. I know. So what do? Red flags, do something. I'd rather you do something that is not right than not do anything at all. So again, contact the school, contact your doctor, And we could get into, Jeff, we're over medicating our kids. Let me tell you, that's not the doctor's fault. And don't even get me started about doctors and insurance. Doctors and insurance, advocate for you. If they're over medicating your kid, step back and say, well, wait a second. Why don't we let's look at this, come off this, start this. Let's have a journal about why I'm here, what the doctor says, the symptoms that we're witnessing, not just for your child, but for you too, because you take this whole curve of getting to know who we are. And by journaling, you break it down about maybe 6 months. You have to be willing to do the work. The other thing too is I'm not just saying therapy and medication. Listen, if you ask me which one is more important, I'd say therapy, because therapy gives you tools where medication is like a Band-Aid. Now, if you ask me further, I do therapy, I'm on medication, and I do yoga. 5 years ago, I was given a year to live. I'm 350 pounds. My triglycerides, 2,784. I got into yoga, flexibility, and mobility. Little did I know how it would change my whole mental well-being. So I'm not just saying medication therapy, but I'm also saying self-care. What is your self-care? And don't say, Jeff, your kids are older. I'm a mom. My kids are in middle school. Self-care is not selfish. Ignoring self-care is selfish. And I say that sensitively. You can't pour from an empty pitcher. Take care of you, and you become a better mom, a better dad, a better teacher, you become more present. I just think self-care is so, so very important, and shouldn't be neglected. So you do something, talk to someone. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. So on the surface of anxiety, stress, dysthymia, depression, your self-care, I think sleep is important, nutrition, and get involved. 3 things will change your kid's life here now. 8 hours of sleep. I think young people need 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night. And if your kid's ugly, they need more. Now, hold on a second. I'm not saying that your kid is ugly. So please don't think I'm saying that. What I am saying is that your kids go to sleep. Well, you think they're asleep, but they go to bed with their devices, notifications come on in the middle of the night. So their 8 hours of sleep is broken up into this interrupted sleep, and they wake up and you're there with, oh, hello, honey, here's breakfast. Like, Mom, really? Like, how about shut up forever? That's what I mean about your kid being ugly. So don't get off this thinking, he said our kids are ugly. Now, they have an ugly attitude, I know. So I think structure is really important. Routine, self-discipline, self-care, self-esteem. Why do I believe more in kids than kids believe in themselves? Meditation. Just part of the resources I'm giving you is a free course on mindful meditation to help people that don't know about meditation, not the spirituality of it, but just like learning to bring down your anxiety. Exercise, practical thinking. Part of self-care is knowing that life is not a race, it's a journey. I want them to manage thoughts and feelings. I ask this when I'm with kids one-on-one. 8 soul questions. Who are you? Where are you? How are you emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially? What do you want? And be specific about it. Don't just say, I want a Jeep. Well, I'll give you a broken down Jeep that has no tire. No, I want a Jeep that works. Well, be specific about what you want. I want like a red Jeep with 4 big honking tires. I want a soft top so I can take the top down. I want a kick-in stereo system, black interior. Be specific about what you want and go for it. But how are you going to get it? Are you willing to work? Are you willing to put in the time? Are you willing to wake up, get up, dress up, and show up? And if you're willing to do that, then be willing to do whatever it takes to bring out the best you in everything you do. And what are you willing to do to achieve this? Are you willing to do that step by step? Put the time in. And in order to receive this, what are you willing to give? Because I think anything of value doesn't come free. You got to pay for it, not just money, but time and effort. And then I love this question. What are you grateful for? Like, I honestly think that listen, I can't change politics. I can't change our government. I can't change this pandemic, but I'm listening like you to this, to that, to people, blah, 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 blah. Part of the problem, I think there's too many dumb people in the world today that are so over opinionated. I can focus on me, my family, what I do. And in focusing on that, I stop and I take a moment to find appreciation in little things. For 9 weeks, I've been home. I've been in my office. Kelly called me, say, Jeff, can you do this for our community? We've lost 5 kids in 2 years. If this pandemic wasn't going on, Kelly, I'm sorry, I'm on the road. I would love to, but I don't have time. I charge. This is the only way I make a living. But because of this pandemic, it's so wonderful. I get to be present here now. I think there's little things that when you start finding gratitude, you notice a tree in your yard you've never noticed before. How beautiful of a thing. I think teaching kids about gratitude and grace and appreciation and rights and responsibilities is a beautiful thing as well. So 8 soul questions that I think you journal, you get deep with it. Parents, how can you be a more effective, and I say this lightly, listen, you parents that are here are not the parents I need to talk to, I know. But I think these are messages that we all need to be living and sharing, because I think leadership is influence, our influence on other people. So I think in I'm a professional speaker. I think in communicating with your kids, verbal communication, not like loud, because when you're loud, they're going to be loud. And if they're loud and you're loud, we're not communicating at all. Take a moment, communicate. Listen. Dr. Stephen Covey says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I tell that to parents that, our kids, but I tell kids, try and understand where the adults in your life are coming from before you're expecting them to understand where you're coming from. Demonstrate what you want them to do, because we don't just hear, but sometimes when we see, oh, okay, and then assist and adjust. You can assist them and show them the correct way, make adjustments, or the adjustment is you just blow it all up and start over. I mean, you can't blow up your kids and start over with a new kid, but you know what I'm saying? Scratch this, let's do it this way. Be influentially positive and supportive. You spell love time. Parents, practice your self-care, balance and boundaries, parenting, not friendship. And being present. But here's the new role for kids. I think have like a motto. Like one of mine has become live to love, love to serve. The growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Especially today with this on-school learning, a lot of our kids are, this is hard because we're online having to learn. So a lot of kids turn off the video so I can be gaming or on social media while I'm pretending to learn. Listen, you're gonna have to be more self-motivated. You're gonna have to wanna be present more. So a lot of responsibility is happening, but I'll also tell you, many of our kids are growing up and they're going to be working jobs that don't even exist yet. That's part of their frustration, is the unknown. So permanent flexibility. Having said that, a couple of the other things that I didn't change this slide. Growth mindset, seek to learn, seek to be better every day. Don't be afraid to ask questions. When you have the courage to ask, the answer shall appear. Your self-care, learn to say no. What a beautiful thing. Balance and boundaries, the dopamine effect, walk away. College or trade. Listen, there's nothing wrong with your kids staying, living at home, going to college, saving money, trying to figure out who they are rather than having this full amount of debt and then deciding later, well, I don't want to do this. That sets them back. Believe in yourself. Read. In 1 year, 15 minutes a day, you've read 18 books. The average kid reads less than 10% of one book in 1 year. Pick up a book. Use your device to learn on YouTube, Google, asking questions, and self-motivation. And so one of the final things, principles of life. I meet so many young people that it's like, and I don't want to really get into faith or religion, but it's like, God, we need more God, not mental health. We need more religion in schools, or nope, I don't believe in God. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't you just have like this moral compass to follow in life? And so I want to share with you this that I think is a beautiful thing. It's a moral compass in how you display it outward, but it's also how you display these principles inward towards yourself. So principles displayed towards others, how you treat people, compassion, empathy. Now listen, I want you to be compassionate and empathetic towards others, but you can't carry their darkness. I want to be compassionate and empathetic towards you and your community. But if we have to carry the darkness of what we've been through, that could be traumatic. And I don't, please know, I'm trying to be very sensitive about this. Be compassionate and empathetic, but also people have to go through a grieving process on their own. We got to work through things. Be a person that non-stealing, like we take from others, we take their energy, we take away their time. Don't do that. Self-control, moderation, balance, boundaries, non-attachment to things, material possessions, non-attachment to your feelings, your thoughts, or your wants. I just sold my Jeep the other day. It's been my Jeep, my baby. I sold it. Someone said, Jeff, how you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's just a Jeep. I want to be like a surfer dude that lives on a little bit of money, but just can live, love, and serve. Beautiful place to be. But now your principles displayed toward yourself. Number one, cleanliness, purity, contentment, peace, self-discipline, peace. I've had everything in life. I've been everywhere. I've traveled the world. I've had houses. I've had nice cars, boats, airplanes, RVs. But you know what I haven't had until like the past couple of years, more so now, this pandemic? Peace of mind. I want, as I'm 49, turning 50 in 6 months, I want the new chapter, the new normal for me to just have peace of mind. It's amazing what life teaches you, but you got to appreciate the journey, not the destination. I think I got like 3 minutes left. Self-discipline, self-study. Get to look at yourself. That's a challenge. Surrendering to the beliefs, meditation, family, talking, therapy, opening your heart, parents, trusted significant adults. So how you treat you and how you treat others really matters. What really is happiness? For me, it's 3 questions. Is my life meaningful? Is my life fulfilling? And is my life rewarding? And if I can't say yes to those 3 questions, then I stop, I look at myself in the mirror and say, what change do I need to make in my life so that I can say yes, yes, yes? That'll be on the slides. I hope you revisit that after. Teen depression today, I talked a lot about this, chemical changes. And so if we don't take care of our teens' mental well-being today, then later it leads to risk-taking, cutting, self-harm, substance abuse, and even suicide. Good questions.